Hey guys, I hope you are doing well. I'm here for 13.5, mean absolute deviation. I can calculate variability, which is the mean absolute deviation. I'm actually very sad that we're not in school for this lesson. I love this lesson because it incorporates March Madness and math, two of my favorite things. So obviously this year March Madness has been canceled. We do have a little bit of a taste of basketball in this PowerPoint. Unfortunately, I did not have time to update the players. So the players are from last year's teams, but that is okay. I love this lesson particularly because I can give Mr. Fenwick a hard time since he is not a UK basketball fan, which obviously we know that UK is the best. I know some of you all do not agree, and you are wrong, but that's okay. So let's get into this. The mean absolute deviation of a data set is the measure of the average distance. I'm going to try to keep my pen on the iPad as much as possible because the last video, the clicking was super annoying. So the mean absolute deviation of a data set is the measure of the average distance between each value and the mean. Remember, mean means your average. That's why it's called the mean absolute deviation. There are a few steps for finding this. The first step is to find the mean of your data set. So hopefully you remember how to find the mean. You add up all of your data points and then you divide by how many data points are in your data set. After you have found the mean of your data set, you are going to find the distance each data point is away from your mean. So remember distance, we talked about absolute value, so that's going to come back. After you have found the absolute value for each data point, you are going to find the average of the mean, you're going to find the average or mean of those differences. So it's like kind of taking the average of the average. The first one we're going to do is obviously the UK basketball team. Looks like Ashton Hagens is the only one that stuck around. So here are the heights for the UK basketball team from last year. And we're first going to find the mean of your entire data set. So to do that, I'm going to add them all together. If you all do not have a calculator at home, I suggest you go to our classroom. At the top of our classroom is a tab called Calculator Resources. You click on the scientific calculator, it takes you to Desmos. If you took the math test for field practice or field testing, then you are familiar with what this looks like. But here is a calculator to do all of your good math. So if I add up 75 plus 75, 75 plus 78 plus 77 plus 80 plus 80, that gives me, let's just do it. So 75 plus 78 plus 77 plus 80 plus 80 equals 390, and there are 5 pieces of data. So I'm going to divide 390 by 5, and I get 78. So my mean of my basketball height for the UK team is 78. So now I want to find the difference or the average. So to do this, I'm going to take my mean of your data set and subtract your data. So 78, actually just kidding, I got that backwards. So you're going to take your data point and subtract the mean. So 75 minus 78 gives you a negative number. So I'm going to keep that negative with that. 78 is 0 away from 78. 77 minus 78 gives you negative 1. 80 minus 78 is 2. And you have 2 pieces of data that are 78, so I'm going to repeat that difference. Remember, the absolute value is the distance from 0. So negative 3 is 3 spots from 0. 0 is 0 spots from itself. Negative 1 is 1 spot away from 0, and I have 2 and 2. After I have found the absolute value of all of my data differences, I'm going to add up those absolute values. So 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. And then we know there are 5 pieces of data, so our mean absolute deviation is going to be 1.6. So 1.6. That is okay that it is a decimal. So I have now found the mean absolute deviation of UK's basketball team heights. We're going to start calling this MAD for short, just so I don't have to keep saying mean absolute deviation over and over. Now we're going to talk about Duke's basketball team. I don't know anything about Duke because I think they're terrible, but this is the height of last year's players. Obviously, Zion Williamson is no longer in the NBA, or not NBA, just kidding, in the NCAA. So this is a old roster. But first I'm going to find the mean of my entire data set. So I'm going to go back to my calculator, hit clear all, then I'm going to add up 74 plus 79 plus 80 plus 79 plus 83. I'm going to hit answer. Oops, what happened here? Oh, I'm going to hit the blue button. I got 395, and then I'm going to divide it by 5, because there's 5 pieces of data. So answer divided by 5 gives me 79. So 79 is my mean of my entire data set. Remember to find the difference, I take my data point and subtract my mean. So 74 minus 79 gives me a negative 5. 79 minus itself is 0. 80 minus 79 is 1. 79 minus itself is 0. And it looks like Marcus Bolden is a lot taller than his teammates. It has a difference of 4, positive 4. Then I find the absolute value, so negative 5 has an absolute value of 5. Then 0, 1, 0, and 4. Now I'm going to add up all of my absolute values. 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 plus 4 is 10. There are 5 pieces of data. So my MAD is 2 for the Duke basketball team. So hopefully you got the hang of this. It's very step by step. First you find the mean, then the difference, then the absolute value, and then the mean of those absolute values. Here is the MAD of Indiana's basketball team, Mr. Fenwick's team, sadly. So we are going to find the mean of their entire data set. So I've got 80. And clear all. 80 plus 79 plus 78 plus 73 plus 76 gives me 386. Click on that answer, maybe, or just hit answer here. Divide that by 5, and I get a mean of 77.2. So that means our differences are going to have decimals in it, and that's okay. Don't be afraid of decimals. So 80 minus 77.2 gives me 2.8. 79 minus 77.2 gives me 1.8. 78 minus 77.2 gives me 0.8. 73 minus 77.2 is negative 4.2. So that player is shorter than the average. And then the last player is negative 1.2 from the mean of your data set. Absolute value, go down here and write that down. Negative 4.2 is still 4.2 spaces from 0, and negative 1.2 is 1.2 spaces. Now I add up all of my absolute values, which ends up being, I think I have a typo on the PowerPoint. So I've got 2.8 plus 1.8 plus 0.8 plus 4.2 plus 1.2 equals 10.8. I definitely had a typo there. So 10.8, there are 5 pieces of data. 10.8 divided by 5 equals 2.16. That is my MAD of Indiana's basketball team. Second to last one, we've got North Carolina. Boo, North Carolina. So here is their players. We're going to find the mean of the entire data set. I'm going to save some time. If I added up those heights and divided by 5, my mean is 79. So I've showed you how to find the mean. You should know how to do that now. So I've got 79 all the way down. So 81 minus 79 is 2. 77 minus 79 gives me negative 2. 76 minus 79 is negative 3. 80 minus 79 is 1. 81 minus 79 is 2. And to find the absolute values, I have 2, 2, 3, 1, and 2. Add those together. 2, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Wait a second. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I couldn't count. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So the MAD of UNC's heights is 2. Last one, fortunately, is the U of L basketball team, Kentucky's little brother, as people like to call it. So I don't know, I think this is last year's team too, but the mean of my entire data set is 77. So I added up all my heights and then divided by 5 because there are 5 pieces of data. 79 minus 77 is 2. 77 minus itself is 0. Looks like Malik Williams is a lot taller than the average. He is 6 inches taller. Kristen Cunningham is negative 3 away from the average. And then this man is negative 5. I'm not even going to try to say his name. Now, absolute value, you've got 2, 0, 6, 3, and 5. Add those together and I get 16. 16 divided by 5 is going to give me a decimal of 3.2. So hopefully you understand the mean absolute deviation. Like I said, it's just finding the average of the averages. You have a digital assignment, just like you did for 13.4. It's only 6 questions. And at the top, there is actually a refresher on how to find the MAD. So that is super helpful. So make sure you are submitting your work at the end. And if you all have any questions, as always, you can contact one of us. Thank you.